TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donation. Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening, and welcome to TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei pledges to hold America and Israel accountable for alleged responsibility for nationwide riots across Iran. Jerusalem warns Iran that any attack against Israel will face a devastating response. A ceasefire between Damascus and Kurdish SDF forces collapses as clashes intensify. The United States is working to enlist world leaders to join President Donald Trump's Board of Peace for the Gaza Strip, to include totalitarian actors such as Russian President Vladimir Putin and Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, which does not sit very well with Western leaders. While many leaders have eagerly acquiesced to President Trump's invitation, some leaders have yet to guarantee their participation, and others have even rejected Trump's offer to join the Board of Peace, to include French President Emmanuel Macron. The publicly claimed reason behind President Macron's decision relates to stated concerns over the Board of Peace securing extensive powers well beyond transitional governance, which would undoubtedly undermine the framework of the United Nations in particular and the international rules-based order at large.
Do you have any response to President Macron saying he will not join the Board of Peace?
Oh, did he say that? Well,
yeah.
Nobody wants him because he's going to be out of office very soon. So, that's all right. What I'll do is if they feel like Costo, I'll put a 200% tariff on his wines and champagnes, and he'll join. But he doesn't have to join. If he said that, you're probably giving it to me a little bit differently. But if he actually did say that, but as you know, he's going to be out of office in a few months.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a speech to Israeli lawmakers, addressed the anticipated transition into Phase 2 of President Trump's 20 points plan.
Regarding the Gaza Strip, we are on the precipice of Phase 2 of President Trump's plan. The IDF, to remind you, holds from a position of power 53% of the enclave's territory. Now, what is Phase 2? People say Phase 2. What is Phase 2? Phase 2 simply articulates the following matter. Hamas will disarm and Gaza will demilitarize. We stick to these objectives and they will be achieved. They will be achieved, as President Trump and I stated, either the easy way or the hard way. No one needs to remind us of the importance of the task to return home Israel's hero Ran Gvili. This is a matter that stands at the top of our priorities, and the less we speak about it will be better.
Prime Minister Netanyahu also seized a public stage to address the evident disagreement between Jerusalem and Washington on matters related to the participation of Turkey and Qatar in an advisory committee to the Board of Peace, which, irrespective of President Trump's position, the Israeli premier vehemently opposes.
Turkish soldiers and Qatari soldiers will not be in the enclave. We have some type of argument with our friends in the United States on the composition of the Advisory Council, as it is called, the Advisory Council that will accompany the process in the Gaza Strip. Now, there is a debate on the matter. When Israel's national security interests are in question, we can argue, we can refine our position, and, by the way, we can also reach agreements. It does not puncture in whatever way my close relations with President Trump, the greatest of our friends in the White House.
Prime Minister Netanyahu continued by addressing the latest developments vis-à-vis the Islamic Republic of Iran, during which he leveled an unambiguous warning to the Ayatollah regime in Tehran.
We removed from our necks the choking ring which Iran and its proxies deployed around us. We still have work to do. Challenges and plans remain. However, one matter is clear: we are changing the face of the Middle East. We are facing the zealots with bravery, those barbarians that are trying to annihilate us. In parallel, we are striving to fulfill historic opportunities of peace, prosperity, and hope. If Iran will make the mistake and attack us, we will act with force that Iran has not yet known. No one can prophesy what the day may bring in Iran, but one thing is clear: whatever happens, Iran will not revert to what it was.
It is important to know that while the Ayatollah regime utilizes Iraqi, Pakistani, and Afghan mercenaries, among others, alongside its Basij and RGC forces, to brutally crack down on protesters, it is thus far failing to regain control over its major cities. Meanwhile, the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who conveniently alleges that those who protest against his rule are foreign agents, acknowledged the degree of mayhem inflicted upon his regime's institutions across Iran. Ayatollah Khamenei continued by directly blaming the United States of America for supposedly bearing full responsibility for the chaos raging throughout Iran, claiming that President Trump's pledge to support the protesters was the root cause of public unrest.
To America, death to England, death to the infidel hypocrites. The nature of the sedition, this sedition was American, it was clear. The Americans planned and acted. We consider the U.S. President guilty, both for the casualties, for the damage, and for the slander he made against the Iranian nation.
The Islamic Republic's tyrants continued by claiming that he had proof that the United States and Israel were involved in triggering demonstrations against his regime, and while failing to provide any proof, he pledged to hold both the United States and Israel accountable.
Worse than domestic criminals are the international criminals. We will not leave them alone either. It must be pursued in its own ways and in the right way, and by the grace of God, the Iranian nation must defeat the seditionists just as it defeated the sedition.
Meanwhile, in Ankara, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan addressed the country's leadership, voicing hope that the Islamic Republic of Iran would soon regain control over its country.
Sokaklar üzerinden yazılmak istenen senaryoları hepimiz
We are all following the scenarios that are being intended to be written through the street protests. We believe that, with a subtle political approach that prioritizes dialogue and diplomacy, our Iranian brothers will hopefully leave behind this period full of traps. With our foreign policy centered on peace and stability, we will continue to stand against any initiative that risks plunging our region into uncertainty.
girişimin karşısında durmayı sürdüreceğiz.
President Erdogan continued by offering his assistance in mediating between Iran and the United States for the sake of lowering tensions.
Bize göre her türlü sorunun çözüm adresi
In our view, the solution to all kinds of problems lies in a relationship of mutual trust. We invite all relevant parties to use common sense, dialogue, and diplomacy. I want it to be especially known that we are ready to do whatever is necessary to further reduce tensions.
bunun özellikle bilinmesini istiyorum.
The Turkish head of state went on to address the situation in Syria, warning the Kurdish leadership of the Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, that it better reevaluate its steps vis-a-vis a ceasefire arrangement with Damascus.
Bölgemizde terörün devri tamamen
The era of terrorism in our region is completely over. The requirements of the ceasefire and full integration agreement must be implemented swiftly. No one should make the wrong calculations again.
hesap yapmamalıdır.
President Erdogan continued by stressing that Turkey will not allow any actor to sabotage the aspirations of the Syrian people and emphasized Ankara's so-called terror-free policy.
Suriyeli kardeşlerimizin önü de ufkuda
The future, horizons, and destiny of our Syrian brothers and sisters are bright.
komşusu
As a country that is a brother, neighbor, and friend in times of hardship to the Syrian people, we will not allow any attempt to sabotage this.
terörsüz Türkiye
This is the aim, goal, and objective of our terror-free Turkey process.
menzili işte budur.
This is also why we emphasize the ideal of a terrorism-free region.
Sebebi aynı şekilde budur.
It is important to highlight that SDF leader General Mazlum Abdi held a 5-hour meeting with interim President Ahmed Shara yesterday, after which the US-brokered ceasefire effectively collapsed. Consequently, General Abdi called for all Kurdish people to rise up and defend the Kurdish territories in northeastern Syria. Nevertheless, to this very moment, as heavy clashes are reported along all friction lines, forces loyal to the Damascus regime are clearly gaining ground. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to encourage you to keep praying for the Iranian people, vying for their freedom, as well as to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, until our next broadcast, Shalom from Jerusalem.